Happy Thursday, 6th grade. We're going to finish up lesson 4 today as we continue to talk about the war that's going to develop between Sparta and Athens. We spent some time talking about the government of Athens yesterday, how they had that um, direct democracy and they really value that. And we're going to go back and touch into lesson 3 where we fought the Persian War and we're going to see some of the things that come out of that. Remember, we're still talking about how governments change, and then today we're going to focus mainly on the conflict of the Peloponnesian War. As time passed, the Greek city states learned that their survival depended on cooperation. Even after the Persian Wars ended, the Persian threat against Greece remained. So in 478, Athens joined other city states to form a defensive league, number one, or protective group, to defend its members against the Persians. Because the league at first had its headquarters on the island of Delos, it became known as the Delian League. And so, guys, this is like when we study World War I and World War II, the Allies. We get a group of nations together and say, you got my back, I got your back. So we took all these little Greek city-states and we said, hey, let's work together so that Persia is now scared of us. They know we together are a huge group that will defend each other, so they can't just attack one city. We'll all go and have their back. So Athens provided the Delian League with most of its sailors and soldiers, while the other city-states supplied money and ships. Because Athens has the most people, guys, it supplied the most things. These other cities who didn't have as many people tried to give the products, the money and the ships for it. During the next several decades, the League drove Persia out of the remaining Greek territories in Anatolia. Free from Persian domination, Greece grew richer. Number 2 in your notes, through increased overseas trade. So the Delian League is working great. Life is good. Greece is safe. Business is booming. People are becoming wealthy. Persia's not so much of a threat. In spite of its successes, the Delian League failed. Athens was the strongest city-state, and the League's officials and commanders and most of the troops were Athenian. Over time, Athens began to use its influence to control the other member city-states. Number 3 in your note. The League was no longer an alliance of equal city-states fighting Persia. It had become a group of city-states controlled by Athens. So guys, Athens is by far the most powerful, but now it uses that to its own advantage, I suppose you'd say it. And it's just one of those tough things, guys, because does Athens, in some people's minds, say, well, we deserve to have control? The officials, the commanders, and most of the troops come from Athens. We should have the most say in it. We're the most people. But these other small city-states are like, hey, forget it, man. If you're not going to treat us with respect, we'll go somewhere else who will treat us with respect. And so it's that fine line, guys, of trying to balance it when it's not giving equal shares. Athens is given the most troops. Maybe they should have the most say. It's one of those things that you have to decide and think of for yourself, but understand how it's playing out. Pericles' leadership helped Athens dominate the Delian League. He treated the other city-states like subjects, demanding strict loyalty and regular payments from them. He even insisted that they use Athenian coins and measures. In 454, the Athenians moved the Delian League's treasury from Delos to Athens. That's number 4 in your notes. They also sent troops to other Greek city-states to help the common people rebel against the nobles in power. Okay, guys, so put that all together here. Number 1, hey, you got to make your payments. Those payments are going to go into the treasury, which will be used by the League when the League votes on what to do. Athens says, let's put that treasure in our city. Hint, hint, we're going to run it. Okay, so now the leaders in these other city-states say, this is no good. And so what does Athens do? They send in their troops to take out the leaders in these other city-states. The common people say, hey, thanks for freeing us. And Athens says, hey, you're very welcome. Remember, Athens, we're the good guys. Support us, give your payments, and love us. And so they were helping other people rebel so that they would also be then loyal to Athens, guys. Okay, as the economic and political power of Athens grew, other city-states, especially Sparta, became alarmed. Number 5, Politically and socially, Sparta and Athens are quite different. Neither trusted the other. Both wanted to be the major power in the Greek world. Sparta became the leader of an alliance of city-states opposed to Athens. In 433, Athens began interfering with some of Sparta's allies. These allies pressured Sparta to attack Athens. War broke out in 431 BC and it continued until 404 BC. Number 6 in your note. The possibility of future cooperation among the Greek city-states disappeared as a result of this war. Historians call this conflict the Peloponnesian War because Sparta was located on the Peloponnesus Peninsula, guys. So Sparta forms its own league and starts recruiting city-states. Sparta wants to be the major player. Athens wants to be the major player. Athens does the smart thing. Athens starts to attack these other city-states. Athens doesn't mess with Sparta directly. They're scared and have respect for them guys. So instead they mess with these city-states, and by doing that, what they're really saying is, Sparta, are you really going to get involved with a war with us over some other city-state, or are you going to say, forget it? Sparta says, we're loyal. And they picked a fight. And the Peloponnesian War goes, guys, for 27 years. That war lasts. We'll see about the war. During the war's first winter, Athens held a public funeral to honor soldiers who had died in battle. Afterwards, the Athenian families gathered to mourn their losses. In a famous speech called the Funeral Oration, Pericles talked about the greatness of Athens and reminded the people that they made their government strong. So you're down here, guys. You got number 7. It's a public funeral. I forgot to delete the L. Sorry about that. It is what it is. Feel free to cross it out. It's supposed to be the word funeral. He reminded them that citizens had to obey the rules in their constitution, which is a framework for your government. They accepted certain duties such as paying taxes and defending the city. They were also awarded certain rights, such as the ability to vote and to run for office. So he's giving this speech and he's saying, guys, this war is worth it. We love these rights. We love the ability to vote. We love the common person being able to run for office. Those rights come at a price. You have to pay taxes and you have to be willing to fight. Keep doing what you're doing. Here's part of the speech. Our Constitution is called a democracy because power is in the hands not of a minority, but of the whole people. When it is a question of settling private disputes, everyone is equal before the law. This is worth fighting for. Guys, we do that all the time today. Why does America go to war all over the place? Because we want to defend the rights of people. We also want to defend our rights. Lots of times you'll hear like World War II. Why do we go to war? To defend democracy. We believe in these freedoms so much we're willing to go to war for them. In his speech, Pericles emphasized that the democratic way of life is worth protecting. Number 8 in your notes. He urged his listeners to have the courage to continue fighting. The ideas Pericles expressed are still valued by citizens of democratic countries today. America's the greatest example of this, guys. It's worth fighting for, and that's why our soldiers are always willing to go off into war and continue to do battle. Okay, this is the Peloponnesus Peninsula down here, guys. So you got a map of the Peloponnesian War that you can see there. All right, let's get the page on the war. In a battle soon after the war started, Sparta and its allies surrounded Athens. They knew that in an open battle, they could easily defeat the Athenian army. Pericles understood the weakness of the Athenian troops. He chose to keep his army and the people within the walls of the surrounded city. The powerful Athenian navy would bring supplies to the city from its colonies and allies. Sparta lacked a navy and could not stop the Athenian ships. Okay, so you're in here at the powerful Athenian navy. Guys, Sparta, think of those big, tough, huge men that know how to fight. Sparta has a great army. Athens has a great navy. They control the seas. And so Pericles says, guys, we're not going to go fight Sparta. Get inside the city, get behind the walls, I'll protect you. Well, we're going to run out of food. Nope, the navy brings the food in. And so Sparta can't stop the war because they can't cut off the supplies. Athens isn't fighting the war right now because they know their troops aren't strong enough. So when you go through the battle, guys, when you think about this, Sparta can control the land, Athens can control the sea. For almost 2 years, Athens remained safe. Then a deadly disease broke out within the overcrowded city's population. Number 10 in your notes. More than a third of the people died, including Pericles. During the next 25 years, each side won some victories but was unable to defeat its opponents. So, guys, after Pericles dies, it gets really crazy. The battles spread all over the place, doing different things. Athens is kind of in ruins as different leaders try to make peace treaties and do different things. But what really decided the war, guys, is this disease. A plague breaks out inside the city because they're stacked on top of each other, and 1/3 of the population dies, including its leader. And so the next leaders, try to say, look, I'll be a strong leader, and they make poor decisions. Finally, Sparta made a deal with the Persian Empire, number 11 in your notes. They go with the enemy from last lesson, guys. Sparta and Athens had worked together to defeat the Persians, and now Sparta sides with them. Here's what they did. The Spartans agreed to give the Persians some Greek territory in Anatolia. In return, Sparta received enough Persian gold to build its own navy. So the battle's over here, guys. This is the Persian Empire. This is Anatolia here. And what Sparta does is says, hey, we'll give you some land back, Persia. Give us money. They take that money to build boats in order to attack the Athenian navy. As the war dragged on, Athens fell into a state of unrest. The democracy had been overthrown. The government that replaced it was then overthrown. By the end of 411, democracy had been restored. The war, however, continued. In 405, Spartans' newly built navy destroyed the Athenian fleet. Then they placed a blockade, that's your notes for number 12, guys, around Athens, preventing food and other supplies from entering the city. Starving, the Athenians finally surrendered a year later. The Spartan and their allies then knocked down the city walls, and the Athenian Empire collapsed. So back and forth, guys, you can see internal dilemma going on within Athens. We're overthrowing a government. We're bringing a democracy back. It's ruins. Finally, Sparta figures it out with Persia, builds a navy, destroys Athens' navies. Athens can't get their food anymore. People are starving. They surrender so they don't all starve to death. Let's see the results. So if we ask you a question, guys. Who won the Peloponnesian War? Sparta. They won it. It's just, we're going to see the effects of it. The Peloponnesian War brought disaster to Greek city-states. The governments were left divided and weak. Many people had died in battle or from disease. Fighting had destroyed the farms and left many people with no way to earn a living. As a result, thousands of young Greeks left Greece, and they joined the Persian army. So it's kind of crazy how it happens in history, guys. Sparta wins the war, but the land is destroyed. So my farm has been burned to the ground. There's no buildings there. So what do I say? I say, hey, the only thing I know how to do is know how to fight. Who's around to fight? The Persians. The Persians will give me money. So thousands fled the country, guys, because it wasn't good anymore, and they joined the Persians in Anatolia. After the conflict, Sparta ruled its newly acquired empire. Much of Athens had ruled its empire before. This harsh treatment angered Sparta's former allies. So Sparta's the winner. They're like, yeah, dudes, we're the winner. Everybody listen to us. And the people are like, this is why we didn't like Athens. Athens bossed us around. Athens didn't respect us, and now Sparta's doing the same thing. So an uneasy political situation developed. During the next 30 years, Sparta tried to put down these rebellions, and they also fought with Persia. Okay, so number 14 in your notes. Finally, in 371, the city-state of Thebes seized Sparta and ended the Spartan Empire. About 10 years later, Thebes also collapsed. So guys, the city-states are falling apart. Sparta gets beat, and then 10 years later, the one who beat Sparta falls apart too. They're just not handling it. Here's the bad news. As the city-states fought, they failed to notice the growing threat from the kingdom of Macedonia. Number 15 in your notes, to the north. Macedonia's strength and desire for expansion would eventually cost the Greek city-states their independence. Guys, a king's going to come to power. His name is Philip, King Philip of Macedonia. He's going to start the battle. He's going to die, and then his son's going to take control. His son is Alexander the Great. So both Lesson 3 and Lesson 4 end with Persia, you got destroyed by Alexander the Great. Greece, you get destroyed first. You're not noticing this because you got your own problems. You're not seeing other countries grow in power. It's going to cost them. All right, that brings us to the end of lesson 4, guys. You got a worksheet of true, false on the top and matching on the bottom. And then you have the last lesson here. So you'll have a test tomorrow taking care of chapter 7 and the notes. Okay, your extra credit opportunity at the top. We're in this last paragraph. You got 2 chances for extra credit. I want the name of the king or the name of his son who's going to come to power and destroy them. You give you both, you get double the extra credit. Blessings on your day.